Congratulations if you have made it through the first round of the fantasy football playoffs. I am sorry if you are still fighting to avoid league punishment, but either way, hopefully today's video will help you out when we recap the 7 biggest takeaways from the first round of the fantasy football playoffs and what they mean for the rest of the season. Now, we realize there are far more than 7 big things that happened during week 15, but we feel like these have the gravity to potentially shift fantasy football lineups the most moving forward. And Cam, we're going to go all the way back to Thursday night first because fantasy football managers got Mike Evans back on Thursday night. 6 receptions for 132 yards and unfortunately a losing effort to the Atlanta Falcons. But this passing attack for Tampa was sputtering before getting Mike Evans back. You just look at just basic game logs for Baker Mayfield. I understand the film can always say something different, but you look at Baker Mayfield's handful of games before week 15, 152 yards in week 8, 173 in week 11, 41 yards against the Rams in week 12, 194 in week 13, only 122 the week prior in week 14. I don't want to just make this as simple as Mike Evans is back, the equation is fixed, but is that the biggest takeaway out of this for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers passing attack?
I think as far as it goes for Baker, it's better. For Godwin and Emeka and Mike Evans, I think it just makes it even more murky, right? You were already struggling to start Egbuka this last week after a bunch of stinkers in a row. You weren't trusting Godwin either. And if you did start Mike Evans, congrats. That it's pretty ballsy.
Yeah.
I got to be honest, just to go into it, but it would have worked out. But now you have all three. Jalen McMillan wasn't back this last week, right? But he was back this last week. And be moving forward. So you got 4 pass catchers, still got K-Dot and Bucky Irving. I don't know. It just is worrying me that we have too many mouths to feed right now in Tampa. And that's what's scaring me pass catcher wise. But as far as Baker Mayfield goes, I feel like he has to be a top 10 option moving forward. Who do they have the next 2 weeks? They have Carolina Miami.
Miami, yes. Miami, Carolina in their next 3.
Gotta imagine he's a top 10 option moving forward, especially in 2 must-win games against Carolina. Yeah. I mean, it's going to decide the division with all of his weapons back, and we've seen it before from him. So as far as Baker goes, very good. As far as all the other pass catchers go, I'm a little more uneasy.
So the thing that I'm still wrestling with here and that I'm still trying to digest myself is Mike Evans has clearly established himself. It feels like reestablished himself, I should say, as the alpha, because it's not that Emeka Egbuka wasn't drawing targets. I mean, he's drawn anywhere from 8 to 12 targets while Mike Evans was out, but clearly something is there as soon as Mike Evans was back on the football field with Baker Mayfield. And I think you pointed out maybe the most important other thing here is that the Panthers and the Bucs are tied 7-7 atop of this division right now. I mean, it is going to come down to week 18 between these 2 teams fighting for the division. So I don't know. In my mind, I think you look at Mike Evans here over the next few weeks. We're recording this Monday, December 15th, 4:53 p.m. Central Time. We haven't touched our rankings for week 16 yet, but give me an early gauge on where you think he falls in your week 16 rankings. Because for me, after this, in a must-win game against the Carolina Panthers, I'm looking at Mike Evans as a very clear-cut, borderline top 15 option.
Yeah, I should have clarified that. Yeah, Mike Evans, I think, is the clear cut. I feel like as far as Egbuka and Chris Godwin goes, it gets a lot murkier. But yeah, Evans, I mean, last week, our top 15 through 20 was our 4, well, even 13. We had Terry McLaurin, Jameson Williams, then Devonta Smith, Michael Wilson, Wan'Dale Robinson, Chris Olave, Justin Jefferson. I don't see any reason he couldn't be at the top of that tier. Right. I mean, he's going to be a borderline wide receiver 1 moving forward, just because it really does there's just a huge gap after those top really 10 guys, 11 guys. So I could easily see him. That's probably where I'm going to end up slotting him, as close to that wide receiver 12 to 14 range.
Now, it's funny because I'm sure a lot of you think we're actually burying the lead of Thursday Night Football here. And before we get to that lead, again, just want to acknowledge only 80%, I shouldn't say only 80%, only 20 of you who watch our videos are actually subscribed to the channel. That means there are 80% of you who are probably currently watching this and aren't yet subscribe. So we can actually change that quick. You can hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell as well, so you know when all of our newest content is up. It is one of the easiest and freest. It's literally free, a free way to support our content as well. As much as we want to provide you our fantasy football insights to beat your friends, to get you the fantasy football championship, to win that fantasy football championship, we want to remind you of the fun and camaraderie that comes along the way as well, because that's how Cameron, Ty, and I all bonded in our friendship. You know, it's been the same for a lot of you out there as well. So we want to remind you of the fun, the laughter, and the joy that does come with the game of fake football. Kyle Pitts is like the epitome of the game of fake football that we play, Cameron, because we all want to love him 1 minute, and the next minute we're all sick of him. Kyle Pitts just goes ahead and drops a 40 burger. Now, I won't say this didn't just come out of left field, because in week 13 he did draw 8 targets, caught 7 of them for 82 yards. 10 in week 14, caught 6 of them for 90 yards. This was just like the explosion of all explosions last week. 12 targets, 11 receptions, 166 yards, and 3 scores. I mean, is the equation as simple as Drake London out, Kyle Pitts in? Like, because that's what it seems like it's been here, as long as Drake London has been dealing with injury.
Yeah, I mean, he's had 3 great matchups as well. Even if London's back, at this point you have to start him, right? I mean, 11.7, 12, and then 40 half PPR points. You can't be benching that in your leagues. Got to get him in your lineup, but it really does feel like he, with Kirk Cousins, is the alpha. I mean, he's clearly the alpha. It doesn't feel like he clearly is the alpha when Drake London is out. So even if London does come back, I can't imagine, right? We talked about it when it happened. The injury happened to London. These PCL sprains, strains, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah,
they linger in wide receivers. I mean, we saw with Ricky Pearsall, even this last game where Ricky Pearsall finally had a big game. He had one big play where he could have housed it and still doesn't look 100%. So I got to imagine they're going to continue to go to Kyle Pitts. They don't want to really lose. They don't have their first round pick. Right?
No.
They're not trying to tank. So they're going to continue.
Team.
And Kyle Pitts is auditioning for a contract right now. He's finishing his 4th season. They didn't pick up his option. He's moving forward. All I know is this means dynasty managers who have Kyle Pitts
are
going to be hanging on. They're all going to hang on because they've been hanging on this long, and none of them are going to get rid of him. And
go get rid of him. This is your time to go get rid of him.
You should, but they're all going to have the same roller coaster again next year because they're going to believe, because he's going to have a new team. Look at what he did. And it's just going to be, and I'm going to be back in. I already know. Like, Kyle Pitts is definitely the drug I can't quit. Him and another guy we're going to talk about later. Our 6th player on the board are 2 drugs that I cannot quit. And I don't know if I'll be able to after these performances.
I mean, Raheem Morris he's literally said Kyle Pitts has gone out there and operated as our number 1 wideout, so to speak. Yep. So clearly you can tell that they've been trying to utilize him, not just in the passing game, but it's like the true number 1 passing threat for this offense. It seems like the team is, the words they're using are optimistic right now, which doesn't necessarily spark optimism in me in terms of Drake London coming back for week 16. So that will be one to monitor. But again, you're probably not sitting Kyle Pitts here coming up. You get the Arizona Cardinals this upcoming week. That is a perfectly fine matchup that you can fire Kyle Pitts in. Then you get the Rams, which you're going to have to chase points in week 17. Again, all of this kind of fluctuates on Drake London's availability as to what degree you can trust Kyle Pitts in your lineups. But again, looking at rankings coming up for this week, it's going to be very hard to slot Kyle Pitts outside of the top 5 tight ends, given what we've seen over the last 3 weeks here, and given a fine matchup here against the Arizona Cardinals. Let's pivot to the Sunday slate. We've talked about Thursday quite a bit here, Cameron. It was unfortunate. We did see Patrick Mahomes go down officially with an ACL injury. He's done for the year. He's more than likely going to miss the start of next season as well. Obviously, you can only tell and predict so much after only hearing about this injury and witnessing this injury 24 hours as we're recording, probably close to 36 when 48 when you all are listening to this. But one, this absolutely stinks. You don't want to see this for the biggest superstar in the entire NFL. But this has ripple effects, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, this isn't going to be a segment on who are you going to stream in place of Patrick Mahomes. This is going to be a segment on what do I do with my Kansas City Chiefs weapons now? Because believe it or not, in total points, not Kyle Pitts, Travis Kelce is the tight end 2 this year in total tight end points. So you have to make a decision on what you're doing with Travis Kelce. Obviously, Rashee Rice has been on an absolute tear since he's come back from his suspension. So you have to make a decision on all of these players. So let's start with the players that I think we could probably just X off and not talk about here. The running backs, obviously you weren't dealing with them to begin with, correct?
No, I hope not. You probably aren't in the playoffs if you were.
I hope not either. Xavier Worthy. I think this kind of sinks Xavier Worthy. He was barely keeping head above water.
I was gonna say probably shouldn't have been in your lineup anyways. So now it makes the decision a little easier.
Yeah, he was barely treading water, even with Patrick Mahomes. So that brings us down here to Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. Where do you want to start first?
We can start with Rice, I think, because I think he's the easier combo, at least for me. It's the volume has been so good that it's obviously not going to be as good without Mahomes. But they also design so many plays for Rice in the passing game to get him the ball that I think they're just going to lean more heavily into that of how can we get this guy the ball in space? How can we, let him do his thing? It's probably not going to be pretty, right? We're not talking about Rashee Rice as a top 5 option anymore, but he's still going to be high enough for the rest of the playoffs, even against Denver in week 17. I mean, unless obviously it could change. If Minshew comes out and is just abysmal, it's like he can't, is one of those situations, then obviously we can reassess. But as of right now, especially against Tennessee this week, I think he's for sure you have to fire him up.
Yeah, Rashee Rice is one where you play him no matter what because of how talented he is and because they're going to manufacture touches directly to him. I want to maybe get a little bit practical with this just because I think we came with Rashee Rice and the abundance of wide receivers that we have. I just want to run a very, very quick little name game of how far do we actually knock Rashee Rice down in the rankings? So let's see. Let's throw out Nico Collins. Nico Collins.
I'm going Nico. Going Nico.
I would as well. Jalen Waddle.
I think I'm still gonna go Waddle.
I would lean Jalen.
I think I'm going to go Waddle.
No. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think I'm there as well. Jameson Williams or Rashee Rice.
Man, he's been good lately too.
Playoffs on the line for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I think you gotta go JMO just because the upside's been ridiculous since the bye week. So
Pittsburgh
I think you go
this
JMO.
upcoming week.
Yeah,
I think I lean JMO there as well. Yeah. Again, you just get rid of those goose eggs, and he's just been balling out recently since Dan Campbell took over play calling. How about your boy Devonta Smith?
I think I lean Rashee Rice there.
That's my line. Yeah,
I think so as well.
Yeah, that's my line there. Let me see if I could pull out another. You have been playing Rashee Rice over Justin Jefferson. Chris Olave, that'll be the last one I throw out there. Chris Olave coming off a 20.8 point PPR week.
Yeah, I feel like Olave's he's safer at this point just because he's
somehow with Tyler Shock.
Exactly. So. And he gets the Jets this next week. He goes the Jets and then Tennessee. Yeah, I'm gonna take Olave the next 2 weeks. That's just matchups of the Jets just fired their defensive coordinator and they have no idea what's going on. So I'll take Chris Olave in that situation.
Yeah, the Jets are literally a lost puppy right now. It's really tough to feel sad for him because a sad puppy you at least want to feel sad for. You can't even feel sad for the New York Jets, unfortunately. So practically, we're looking at Rashee Rice instead of being a top 5 play every week to being a borderline top 15 play every week. Just based off of our rankings for week 15, all those guys that I listed, the Jamesons, Devontas, Chris Olave's are between the wide receiver 15 and the wide receiver 20. So I think that's kind of the range you're looking at here for Rashee Rice now. Travis Kelce, though, let's at least have the Kelce conversation. How do you deal with Travis Kelce here? Is he worth a top 10 play still with Gardner Minshew running the show?
Because I get Tennessee this week. I feel like yes, because your other options are probably just so bleak at this point at the tight end position. But it's going to be borderline top 10. And if we I'd want to see other matchups, but this last week we had Warren at 7, Brenton Strange 8, Ferguson 9, Theo Johnson 10, Juwan Johnson 11, Mark Andrews 12, Dalton Kincaid 13. I think that's the tier has to be in moving forward. Of you just really don't know what you're gonna get, but you do
No,
know he's at least used in this offense, so should get some volume. But yeah, I'm not overly excited about starting Travis Kelce moving forward.
it's so difficult because I think we can pretty clearly establish McBride, Kittle, Bowers, Harold Fan, and Kyle Pitts.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say Tyler Warren ahead of Travis Kelce right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, then you're looking at, again, Brenton Strange, Fergie, Theo, Juwan, Mark Andrews. Which one's going to catch a touchdown? Which one has the best matchup? And that's kind of what you're playing with those guys at that point. And I think, unfortunately, that's kind of the realm Travis Kelce just falls into, is these matchup-dependent tight ends who have clear roles within their offenses, but sometimes can't even capitalize on a good matchup, which is just frustrating. So
yeah,
I'm with you. It's tough to put Kelce as like, I think you roll him out as a top 10 rank, but yet I might finish my rankings Wednesday afternoon and literally say Travis Kelce can't even crack my top 12 because I just don't have enough faith.
I think he will for me, because I think I'm going to buy into the narrative a little bit that these are probably his last 2 games in the NFL.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. There we go. We can play the next game. Yeah.
These are my Kobe. My Kobe games right here. At the end of his career, we're out of the playoffs. I'm just going to go out and try and put up as many points as I can. It doesn't matter, because I got to imagine he's not coming back next year with the thought that Mahomes might be out till October. So I don't know. That's a narrative I might buy into next week a little bit, which will keep him in a starting lineup if I have him. But yeah, my thing is, I think you got to start him anyways, because I'm assuming if you're looking at your waiver wire, you're looking at guys like AJ Barner, Dalton Schultz, Darren Waller,
hey, Colby Parkinson.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then it's still, do they catch a touchdown or not? Right. And Colby Parkinson didn't catch a touchdown, but they did call it a touchdown this week. So I guess
we caught 2 touchdowns this week.
Oh, yeah. Well, one of them wasn't a touchdown, but they called it a touchdown for him. So
I was going to say, I thought they were a little bit gracious in giving him that one. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Underdog, where you can get into the game this season playing Pick'em. It's extremely simple. Just pick higher or lower on 2 or more of your favorite players. For example, I'll pick the higher on Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Xavier Worthy. If I played $10 and got all 3 of them right, I would win $60 just by watching football. And that's the beauty of Pick'em. You can track your picks and your wins while you enjoy the game. Now, if you're not on Underdog yet, scan the QR code on your screen or use our code FELLAS when you sign up, because new customers will get $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5 on the app. Plus, Underdog will give you a free pick to use in your first entry. Again, that's code FELLAS over on Underdog. Now let's get you back to the rest of the show. Unfortunately, we did have another notable injury happen on Sunday. Davante Adams left on Sunday with a hamstring injury. And this is a quick turnaround for the Rams. This is a very applicable discussion for managers in the fantasy football playoffs still, Cameron, because they turn around, play Seattle Thursday night. But we have to diagnose, one, are there any other pass catchers that in deeper leagues you could take a dart throw on? 2, I'm just going to say, how in the world are we going to relegate these red zone opportunities? Because we're throwing in our group chat, as soon as the Rams get within the 10-yard line, just book a Davante Adams touchdown. Like, go sprint over to your whatever pick'em lobby you have, go sprint over to Underdog and see if a Davante Adams touchdown is still floating out there, and just get a freebie there automatically because you knew it was going to go to him. So where do you want to start? Do you want to start with actually, let's start with the wide receivers. Are there any other wide receivers you're interested in outside of Puka Nacua going into Thursday as like potential dart throw, nasty DFS opportunities?
I don't think so, just because the way they use Puka is similar to like JSN, where you go, well, they have to use someone else. And then they just don't. And then they just are like, we're going to actually just run the ball and throw to Puka 14 times. And we're just going to be happy that he has 195 yards and a touchdown. And that's kind of what they've shown in the past and what I think might happen. I also want to say on Davante, he said he's optimistic. He said that after the game that he might play. McVay and Stafford were both kind of like, I don't know about that. So I do think that's worth the conversation as well, of if he does somehow suit up, I don't know if I trust, right? that would be the scariest thing, I think, for me right now, is if he does suit up in week 16 of what the heck do you do then? Because I don't want to play him, but at the same time, it's like he could easily be 4 catches for 6 yards and a touchdown again. And that's just kind of what he's been. So, but to answer your original question, no, I don't think there's a wide receiver I trust enough in the playoffs to try to get gross with and fire up.
I do think you named something really scary there of Davante Adams like forcing himself to play. And I mean, let's be honest, massive divisional implications on the line here on Thursday Night Football. The 2 top teams here in the NFC West. Of course, Davante Adams is going to want to get in the game and suit up. I'll tell you right now, I think I would probably play chicken if Davante Adams decided to suit up on Thursday. I'd probably say, not so fast, because either they're going to, my guess is that they would severely limit his snap count, or he re-injures it again. Just the probability of that happening is just too risky for me. And I also think that's just what Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford see. I'm just like, hey, no, we'll go to war for you. There'll be time for us to turn this thing around and get into the playoffs. And worst comes to worst, we see these guys 2 weeks into the postseason and we'll kick their butts then. So I don't know where you land on that. I lean more of if Davante Adams suits up on Thursday, oh man, it's so tough, but I'm inclined to like not play him. But and again, that's like gut check 24 hours after this injury happened.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if you're looking at like I gotta start Kayshon Boutte, Darnell Mooney, Alec Pierce, right? Then you're starting Davante. But if it's like Brian Thomas or Davante Adams, where you're like, oh, he had a good week, I still don't trust him, or if Rome Odunze is healthy, or Khalil, something like that, then yeah, I'm gonna go them over Davante for sure.
I will say the other pass catchers that I become interested in is this tight end grouping, because I do think you could probably fire up like a Colby Parkinson potentially, because Seattle has been getting chewed apart by tight ends.
That's true.
They are top 6 in points allowed to the tight end position. So if Davante Adams doesn't play, I do think you can look at a Colby Parkinson potentially. I don't think you can necessarily start a Terrence Ferguson or Davis Allen necessarily, but Colby Parkinson becomes very interesting to me as a streaming option if you are like in the toilet bowl and you're just trying to avoid league punishment. You need somebody out there in a good matchup, like, Colby Parkinson, I think, is one of your better options to pursue. Let's talk about the touchdowns, because the Rams are putting up 35 points a game, right? The one thing we know about the Rams is that they will put up points, and if you want to compete with them, you're probably going to have to do the exact same. We talked about the red zone touchdowns going to Davante Adams. What do we do with those now? Because I'm not going to say the Rams are automatically going to keep scoring 35 points, but even when the Rams have scored 24 to 27 points, Davante Adams has still been good whenever you get inside the red zone. So what are we doing here now? More red zone opportunities for Puka? Are we running the ball more with Kyron and Blake Corum? How are we sorting all that out?
That's what I was going to ask. Is Blake Corum
yes,
top 24 option?
Can we go here? Can we go here? I think we can.
3 straight top 20 finishes. He had a running back 3 finish, 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games, 70 plus. I mean, he's not getting a crazy workload.
We're here because the Rams are good enough of an offense right now where they're going to keep pushing the ball down the field. And he and Kyron Williams are rotating drives. I mean, this has been a thing that you've heard multiple people talk about here for the last 4 or 5 weeks now, is that this Rams offense is rotating drives between their running backs. And this offense is just good enough to find itself in the red zone more times than not, it feels like. So, I'm with you. Like, I think Blake Corum's a top 24 option, I think, this week.
Yeah, I mean, Dave Montgomery, Tony Pollard, Kyle Monangai, Zach Charbonnet, Jordan Mason. Like, if you're starting those guys, I think I'm taking
Blake Corum.
100%. Like, I think you have to this week. So, and it's not a great matchup.
No,
I mean, Seattle is a tough team to run against, but so was Detroit, and Blake Corum came out, had 11 carries for 71 yards and a touchdown. So, yeah, I think I'm going to be firing up Blake Corum for sure. And you don't have to force him in your lineup, right? If you have 3 really good running backs, but if you're starting some of those guys I just named, then yeah, I think I roll with Blake Corum, and I'm going to assume that these touchdowns are going to go to the running backs. Puka probably will get one finally. He got to imagine that at some point they get it to him in the red zone, but they've shown every week it's either Davante Adams or we run the ball in. Is essentially what it is in the red zone. So, and when they're as hot as they have been, you got to. I keep riding the hot hand.
I hope I reference this stat that Hayden Winks and Josh Norris dropped on their show in their Week 15 reactions video, but the Rams have had a 65% success rate running the football this year. That is 100th percentile. Okay, so this is not only is Matthew Stafford having a phenomenal season, but the run game for the Rams is really, really, really freaking good right now. So if they can still get around the goal line, if the passing attack can get them there, if the rushing success rate remains as high as it is, yeah, I'm with you. Like, could this be a game where the Rams score 4 times and Blake Corum and Kyron Williams both get their own? They both get 12, 13 carries, 50 yards apiece. We're both looking at them as top 24 options. Yeah, I totally think that could shake out. So it's a bummer that you're not going to have Davante Adams, who has just been steady Eddie. Give me a touchdown week in, week out. I'm never going to have less than 7 points in my lineup by the time you add a reception on top of the touchdown as well. It's a bummer that you might not have that, but I'll tell you what, you might be able to replace that production a little bit if you got a Blake Corum on your team. You can slot him in your flex as well. I'm glad we went there because I wanted to make sure we go there with Davante because I really do believe he's a very, very startable piece here moving forward in the fantasy playoffs. Next big game that happened, Cameron, people gashed me in the comments when we did our rest of season rankings, saying we were stupid for having TreyVeon Henderson in the B tier because of how he hadn't done anything yet. He only done it for 2 games. And hey, you know what? They were right for 2 games. And all of a sudden, TreyVeon Henderson comes back. We've got 2 50-plus yard rushing touchdowns this last week against the Buffalo Bills. An RB3 finish on the week, somehow with 29 points in half PPR formats. I mean, is this it? Like, what are we doing with TreyVeon here, man? I would much rather be wrong trying. I'm going to continue to say this as loud as I can until people understand what I'm actually saying. I would much rather be wrong trying to be right about TreyVeon than be wrong because I was like cheering for him to not be good. Right? I would rather be rooting for TreyVeon to be the smash play, averaging 8 yards a rush every single game, ripping off multiple 30-plus yard runs every single game. I would rather bet on that, trying to bet on that being right, than saying, but you know what? Ramondre is still there. He's still the plotter in pass protection. I know those things are all irrelevant, but I just think this is the profile where it's like, I would rather bet on the excitement than I would saying, sorry, let me throw some cold water on that.
Yeah, I mean, even this last week, he had only 45% of snaps, and he still outcarried Ramondre 14-6. So they're using him in the run game. He's had 14 plus carries in 5 of his last 6 games. He's always being used in the receiving game. This is one of his worst receiving games, but it doesn't matter when you have multiple house calls, and that's just who he is as a player. He's a guy who can break one every week, right? We talk about it with some of these guys of, well, you know, he had a big rushing touchdown. Can we count on that week in, week out? And not necessarily that you can count on it every week, but with a guy like TreyVeon, that is always in, you know, what he does. It's always in the repertoire. That's what makes Jahmyr Gibbs special. It's always in the repertoire for Jahmyr Gibbs, right? That can happen. And so you look then at the fact that he gets Baltimore and the Jets these next 2 weeks.
Yes.
You can't take him out of your starting lineup.
No.
I mean, because you can't this week, and it doesn't matter what he does against Baltimore because you can't take him out against the Jets week 17 when New England's going to have to win, you know, to be able to hold on to the AFC East. So it's, even though they go Baltimore, the Jets, Miami. I mean, Buffalo's right on their heels. And so they have to win out if they want the second pick. They have to win out if they want a chance at the first round bye. So they're going to be playing hard, and you got to imagine TreyVeon's a big part of that.
Where does he fall in weekly rankings for you then? Because this is the debate that we can have. I get it. After his running back 3 and running back 4 finishes, he went RB 21 and RB 28. But still in our consensus rankings, he was sitting at the RB 12, RB 11. I mean, you're shooting dead middle at that point, right? Maybe lean a little bit more on the optimistic side than the pessimistic side. But like, I don't see how I can sit here and rank TreyVeon Henderson in these matchups with his explosiveness and say, yeah, you know what? He's probably closer to the RB 20 this week, so I'm going to rank him as the RB 20. Like, because we know this is in his upside, his arsenal. If I think he's going to be closer to the running back 20, I'm like quick glance at the running back rankings where I might have him this next week. RB 13, 14 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where I feel good about having TreyVeon this next week.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. He's going to be, instead of maybe grouping him with like RJ Harvey, Brees Hall, Ashton Genties, it's now Kyron Williams, Saquon Barkley, Travis Etienne,
Right.
That range of players, which is
Ahead of Chase Brown. Yeah.
Yes, which is a must start this week, unless obviously if you might in the playoffs now, I understand you might have ridiculous running backs. You might be starting Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, and like James
You
Cook.
fleeced your league mate back in week
yes.
5, and we get it. We get it.
I understand. At that point, then yes, you rock with the elite guys, but outside of that, TreyVeon Henderson should be in your lineup.
You've been waiting all year for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've been waiting for the league-winning stretch from TreyVeon Henderson. Everybody compared him to Jahmyr Gibbs at the start of the year. And what do we remember about Jahmyr Gibbs' rookie season? It was such a slow burn. Everybody wanted more Jahmyr Gibbs. And when it got to matter most at the end of the season, Jahmyr Gibbs brought you home a fantasy football championship. Okay? That's what we're freaking looking at here with TreyVeon. You can ask for a better schedule. I mean, you could ask for a slightly better. You could ask him to play Buffalo again. But point being, you're getting the juicy schedule. You're getting the massive breakout games. I mean, he's finished as a top 5 running back in 3 of his last 5 games, for crying out loud. He's been a startable fantasy running back in 4 of his last 5. Please play him. Like you can say I'm crazy for thinking he's like a borderline top 12 play. That's fine. But I would rather rank him aggressively than sit here and be a Debbie Downer and allow Ramondre Stevenson to poop my party, if that makes sense. That was not a phrase, so I'm just going to keep things moving because that felt really weird. Felt really weird coming out, and I just need to keep moving to pretend I didn't actually say it now. Oh, boy. Trevor Lawrence had a phenomenal game, Cameron. This is your other boy, I think, that you can't quit. 44 fantasy points, 20 of 32 for 330 and 5 touchdowns. Count them up, 5 of them on the afternoon. Are we back? Are we back?
I think everyone's back when you play the Jets. I think that's
because that's the most important question. Is It's Denver this week?
Yes.
Are we officially done? We're back for a minute, but now we're gone again.
Yeah, could you imagine if you told someone at the beginning of the season that if you wanted to make sure, especially in like Best Ball Mania, if you wanted to make sure you had to advance, you needed Trevor Lawrence and Kyle Pitts to combine for 84 half PPR points. And
you have to draft those two. You're not advancing unless you draft those two.
Those 2 guys that people have been trying to quit for 4 years. Finally, just you know what? Performance of the year for both positions. Right. So like I don't love him playing Denver. Obviously, I could easily see this being like that game against Houston where he had 10.8 fantasy points. He only had 158 passing yards and a touchdown and an interception. Like Denver's a lockdown defense. I don't think you have to force him into your lineup just because he destroyed the Jets, who were incompetent on defense this last week. I also don't think because he plays Denver, you have to force him out and, go surf the waiver wire to pick up, to try like a Kirk Cousins again or something like that. I think I'm still going to lean into Trevor Lawrence if that's, your 2 options. But again, just checking where I'm assuming he's going to find in my rankings is probably that quarterback 14, 15 this week, maybe up into 13, but most of those guys, like I'm assuming I'll have, Baker Mayfield be ahead of him, Jared Goff, Jackson Dart, and then the normal 7 or 8 who are always up top of our fantasy ranks are going to be up ahead of him just because it is a rough matchup against Denver.
Excuse me for missing out on his rushing touchdown this past week as well, because that was the thing that I wanted to make sure we brought up too, was if you're going to play him against Denver, you better be hoping you get a rushing touchdown on top of that as well. I mean, even against Kansas City in week 5, quarterback 5, week 6 against Seattle, quarterback 13, the Rams, quarterback 14. I mean, not huge rushing days in those games, not like uber productive outings, but you got teams on bye, so obviously that milks things a little bit too, but everybody can play against Vegas. But Chargers quarterback 11, Cardinals quarterback 7, Titans, anybody can throw on the Titans. Point being, he has had a few nice cushy matchups where he's gone quarterback 7, 5, 13, and 1 over the last 4 weeks. But I'm not forcing Trevor Lawrence into my lineups. I think is kind of where I'm at this week. If he got you through to the next round, Trevor Lawrence did his job. If he kept you from league punishment, he did his job. I think this is the week you can probably look in a different direction other than Trevor Lawrence, unfortunately, just because of this matchup with Denver. It's a tough one, especially with Pat Surtain roaming in that secondary once again this season. Before we got one more player we want to talk about here. Another quarterback, ironically enough, that I think a lot of people might be considering what the heck happened. What do I do with him now? Can I still play him? Can I not? Make sure, again, just hit that subscribe button, turn the notification bell as well. We go live on Sunday before kickoff, so that will get you alerted when we actually go live to help you answer all of your start-sit questions. Maybe there's a player we talked about today and we don't cover on our Thursday starts and sits episode as well. They're like, yeah, but I really need to know whether to play him or not. It's a perfect place for you to come and ask that question. We will get you taken care of. So, again, we're going live on Sunday. Easiest way to get notified of that is by hitting that subscribe button and turning on the notification bell as well. 100% free for you. 100% free to support us in that way as well. Joe Burrow, Cameron. Terrible week. Was not a fun week, and I really wanted to frame this whole thing around his quote from earlier this week that caught some buzz on social media. If I want to keep doing this, I have to have fun doing it. If it's not fun, then what am I doing it for? I'm gonna guess Joe Burrow didn't have fun this week.
No.
Getting shut out by the Baltimore Ravens, throwing 39 times, completing only 25 for 225, no tutties whatsoever. Is this just a blip on the radar for you? Is this a T. Higgins wasn't around, so that impacts things enough, even though Jamar Chase PPR'd his way to a successful day. Chase Brown didn't have much better of a day either. But what are you doing here with Joe Burrow moving forward? Because you did get 2 top 12 finishes from him right away upon his return. Quarterback 27 now this last week. Concerned? Not concerned?
I'm not, for fantasy, I'm not overly concerned. I mean, obviously it wasn't great, but as far as him and the weapons, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Chase Brown, like you said, they've thrown 46, 36, and 39 times in his 3 games. There's going to be a lot of fantasy points that go around. I understand it was gross. I understand it didn't work out this one. But against Miami again, who has actually been surprisingly decent against the run as of late. Cincinnati's going to have to throw the ball, and I think it's just going to lead to fantasy points. I think Burrow, Higgins, and Chase, all 3 of those guys together, they're too good to have multiple bad weeks against defenses they should be. So I'm not saying they go out and win the game or anything, but I do think they're going to at least put up points this next week in fantasy points at that.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is just a blip on the radar, and especially on a bad day for Joe Burrow, you still get a PPR scam Jamar Chase day to bring you fantasy relevance too. It really doesn't concern me at all. And I'm guessing, again, if you had Joe Burrow on your fantasy football team, I'm guessing you're probably just fighting to avoid punishment at this point. You're probably not in the fantasy football playoffs. Any interest in Burrow against Miami? Where's he going to fall in your rankings, you think?
Well, he was my quarterback 2 this last week, so probably not there again.
Probably.
I could probably be around that 7-8 spot.
Sure.
Maybe 9, just because if we didn't have last week, probably would be higher. It's just, you do have to take that into account a little bit of, this was really bad against a team that they should have been decent against. So yeah, it'll probably be right in that range. Well, you take out Mahomes now, so maybe move him.
Works his way up to
7. Yeah, probably that 7-8 range. But
I was gonna say works his way up to that 7 to 8 range. Yep, that makes sense. And I think that's probably where he's going to fall for me as well. Again, I am not super concerned. You're going to get T. Higgins back this week. You're going to get hopefully you get T. Higgins back this week. You're going to get a fully functioning offense here against the Miami Dolphins. Again, I know the Bengals aren't fighting for much, but they better be fighting for continuity, playing for a sense of togetherness on this team after the last 2-3 years that this team has had with injuries and offseason debacles and everything of the sort. So yeah, I'm not too concerned about Joe Burrow. I think you still fire him up this week, but wanted to at least make note of that, especially in light of it's coming from earlier this week of, all right, we went from the quarterback I drafted to not even startable. Don't worry, just blip on the radar in our eyes here. We'll put a pin in everything there, Cameron. If you want to follow our other socials as well, we got more content out over there for you all. FFL is over on Twitter. The FFL is over on Instagram. Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook and TikTok. And that is all exclusive content that is not just like cut up podcast content. It's all exclusive content that we've got a whole separate team taking care of for us. So make sure you go check that out if you're a YouTube person through and through. Fantasy Football Fellas Shorts over there. If you want to follow Cameron and I on X as well, I'm at Lucas Wenzel, Camlon FFF for Cameron. We'll be back later this week on Thursday. Again, we're down to 2 shows a week. 18 different players will get tied back in here who will change your week 16 outcome, who will get you on to the Fantasy Football Championship. And then I'll say this now, come championship week, because it's Christmas, only 1 show next week. And we'll just go ahead and we'll bump up the starts and sits episode to Tuesday. So just so you all are aware, we got 2 coming for you this week, but next week will only be 1 show with Christmas on the horizon. Still got to make sure you get you set for the Fantasy Football Championship. Appreciate you all. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Stay safe, stay healthy. Deuces.
Deuces.